Okay, we'll workshop it.
Oh boy! Oh no! Hi,
Oh wait, are we live? Oh shit!
Like 3 seconds.
Okay, we'll do it live.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
My bad.
Hey everybody! I have to.
everyone.
Of course, the one thing I forgot to do was turn on my ring light.
Oh, there
There we
she is.
Of course, it's too bright. Color temperature's all wrong. There we go. All right.
We
Still
weren't
seems-
ready.
Okay. We weren't ready. No, I know.
Tyler will be
everything
here
else.
in a little bit. Canadian Mudkips. We're
Yes.
kind of Ned's gonna cycle out. Tyler's gonna cycle in. It's gonna be freeform.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
only going to be here for the first 15 minutes, Gaggle. It's my son's birthday, so we're going out to celebrate.
Aiden.
So we just chitting and chatting. We having a grand old time. Just
Excuse me, Miss
just
K.
talking. Yes,
Pendergast would like to know if we're recording.
we are. Thank you, Pendergast.
Thank you.
I actually did have to double check.
Pendergast.
Thank you,
No, they
Pendergast.
know
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, all of you, for reminding me.
So
Well, Gaggle, welcome to our After the Madness, Post Madness and Mercy stream. We're just here chit-chatting about our shared trauma and unveiling any secrets that you or my players might have questions about. So we're just gonna kind of keep things free flowing and loose tonight. We'll lose Ned in a little bit. We'll gain a Tyler a little later. But first things first, I just want to pop. Oh Lord! First things first, I just want to pop open this bottle of beer that Trevor got me for my birthday.
Oh,
was
yeah,
Campbell.
that's
I
right.
can't claim
Campbell got
credit.
this
It was
for me.
Campbell. I can't claim credit.
I wish I
That
could have been
big
there, Kay. I'm sorry.
All right, well then in that case, I want to pop open this bottle of beer that Campbell got me for my birthday. Thank you, Campbell.
You
Pop,
got it.
pop.
Let's see if I can get the pop in the microphone.
Come
Hang on.
on. You got it.
Without spilling it all over my computer. Hang on. Hey!
Oh,
that was
yeah.
good.
Ah, that
Holy
was
shit.
crisp.
That's the sound there.
Mazel
Oh, and right out of the bottle.
Well, I wanted to make sure it didn't spill over. So
I hear
here,
you.
cheers to you, Goons. Cheers to you, and cheers to the Gaggle, and cheers to Madness and Mercy.
I have to drive, so.
You're awesome.
Yes, there we go.
What's that saying?
And my
You're
mom
awesome.
always gets me cute shit like this for
Keep
my
that shit up.
Keep that shit
Yeah.
up.
Keep that
Thanks,
shit up.
Dixie.
It's a good reminder.
Oh, I can kick off the peeps behind the screen with the fact that Sweetie McLintock is from Kinston, North Carolina, because my mom, Dixie, is from Kinston, North Carolina.
Now, is that Kingston or Kinston?
Kinston.
Okay,
Like
I didn't know if that was
Kids
just
like
like
family.
I didn't know if that was just like the accent being an accent.
Mhm.
Like New
Kingston.
Orleans.
Exactly. So I don't know if I know I put a list. I sort of compiled a list of some of the questions that we've received over the last week or so in the Discord channel. And I believe that's still up at the Discord channel. Actually, would one of you goons mind pulling that up for us, and we can sort of go through those. Also,
where'd
if you
put
guys
that?
have any questions, I think I just posted it in one of our admin channels.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
But yeah, then if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. You know what? Actually, I will start by giving a little bit of insider information. The name of the adventure, the name of this investigation is "And Some Fell on Stony Ground."
What?
Oh.
Because the big rock.
This was like a module or a thing?
Correct. This is a module.
Cool.
It is one of the modules found within the Nameless Horrors book.
Ooh.
Wow.
Spooky.
So
It looks like
There
Matt
are-
Berry on the cover there.
this guy,
My
the guy with his
darling.
eyes all.
Doesn't it? He looks exactly like Matt Berry. Well, no, from the nose up, he does.
Hello, I'm Matt Berry. I don't know who Matt Berry is or what he sounds.
Oh,
That
wow.
wasn't bad.
I
That
love
wasn't
the
a bad
voice.
match.
though. Oh,
Excuse me,
Lord.
my word.
Is that
Talk
right?
amongst yourselves for a second. I have to
Oh,
die a little bit.
Oh no.
you all right there, kid?
Can we all say a prayer? Let's all say a prayer for.
Look
the
up, Kay.
keeper of our
Look
kingdom.
up.
Watch over
Dear
your keeper,
Cthulhu,
Look up.
that she may
please be
bring more
merciful.
souls to you.
Whew, I don't know what that was about.
There we go.
Whoa,
May
I didn't
no
sign off on this
nickel-
on this Eldritch God worship.
Clearly, I just need to drink more.
F in the
Oh,
chat.
hello.
F in the chat for Kay.
Ugh. All right. I don't know what that was all about. Anyway, hi everyone. Okay, so yeah, nameless horrors and some fell on stony ground. And let's see if I can actually just find the page. So I really was not exaggerating when I said that this was very that I expanded upon this a lot. The actual adventure, I think, is only takes up not very many pages in the book. It's actually too many for me to count in a way that is quick and interesting for the Twitch stream, but it's very short. To sort of give you a synopsis, it basically just gives you a list of like, and all the adventures in this book are kind of built this way. They give you a list of pre-generated investigators that the players have the option of inhabiting or creating their own.
You're too original.
I mean, I know. I knew from the beginning that we wouldn't be using them. However, I did use some of the things about them for your characters. I did use some of the names. Wesley Frost, for instance, which I stole for the butler, is one of the pre-generated investigators. Annabelle Hearn is one of the pre-generated investigators. And it just so happens, Campbell, that one of the pre-generated investigators is having an affair with Arnold McDermott.
Oh.
So when you told me
that's so
weird.
You can't even make that shit up.
When you told me that Sweetie was having an affair and was pregnant, I was like,
juicy.
That works. That fits in very well.
Because I told you that she's having an affair, that she started having an affair several months ago after Howard's accident, that she's about 3 months pregnant. And then you messaged me and you were like, great, I know who she's having an affair with. And so you supplied the man.
Ooh.
I was like, I don't suppose
he
you have
always does.
I was like, I don't suppose you have a name in mind for this partner, do you? And you were like, I was hoping you had one. And I was like, I do.
That's wild.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So since we're talking about you, Sweetie, why don't you start? Let's what are some things that people might not have learned about your character from watching the stream? / what are some things like maybe like what was she in your mind initially? What was her sort of like inspiration, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I have been one, and Trevor knows this. The first D&D character that I ever dreamed up was named Rudenya Fengallo, and she was a pregnant barbarian, and her like barbarian rage came from like motherly instincts.
I love that.
And then that never panned out, and Winnie came along. But I've always wanted to play a pregnant character with a Southern accent. That's where I've been headed. And so she came from Kinston, North Carolina, because that's where my mom, Dixie, and all her Southern family come from. And I got the name Sweetie from Gilmore Girls. There is a hilarious cold open where Emily Gilmore is talking about a friend of hers named Sweetie who has recently died. And Lorelai is like, why was her name Sweetie? And Emily's like, I don't know, because she was sweet. And Lorelai's like, that's not good enough. And then for this woman who has very recently died, Emily is like, fine. Her name is Sweetie because she X, Y, and Z, and she comes up with this elaborate backstory for her. And so I stole Sweetie, the dead NPC from Gilmore Girls. Yeah, I came out on stream at one point that Sweetie's not her real name. Her real name is Susan. Sweetie came from when she was a kid and a teenager. She worked in a sweet shop, and that's where she kind of developed her saleswoman savvy. Howard's accident was because a log like fell off of a stack and hit him in the head. And if you're unconscious for long enough, it's not like in the movies when you go unconscious and you wake up in a new location a couple seconds later, like with
a piece of duct tape over your mouth that you inexplicably can't get off.
If you go unconscious for more than a second, you will have major brain damage. And so he had some shit going on. Yeah, that's all that comes to mind right at first. Anything else?
How did she get into being an Avon Lady? Kazi asks.
Oh, she found out about that because Lori had heard tell. I think Lori from Luscious Lori's The Hair Salon was kind of looking to expand the products that she offered at the hair salon. And then she started off just like sending samples home with some of her customers to like try out the scents. And then she started like employing other women who came to get their hair done at the hair salon into like the multi-level marketing situation in the early days of California Perfume Company. And then when Sweetie found out she was pregnant, she kind of went whole hog on it, trying to make enough money to get out of the house. She didn't want to raise a baby with Howard, and she was trying to come up with like a little nest egg to get her and the baby away.
Absolutely. I'm realizing I probably should have gone to Ned first, because Ned, I know we don't have much time with you. So why don't we do the quickest deep dive we can into Buddy? Tell us some things that we might not know about him.
Yeah,
Buddy, inspiration for him.
Buddy started off. He started off in essentially what you would call like elementary school, and then moving into like the middle school, and he never graduated past 8th grade. So he stopped after 8th grade, and he joined the police force in his town, and he started with that, and he started moving his way up the ladder, and he eventually made it to like, I guess what you would call like Lance Corporal, which wasn't really high, but then he was approached by Pinkerton because they needed recruits. Once he was approached by Pinkerton, he headed out west with them because their first big employment was to settle the West, to kind of keep like the lawlessness that was out there down, because they just didn't have enough sheriffs or deputies to do the job. So they started bringing in Pinkerton agents to help out the oil riggers and all of these people to make sure that big money was still flourishing out there, so that they could then move military and sort of stuff out there. And that's where he met. That's where he met his wife, ex-wife.
Ex-wife, yeah.
When he got stationed back on the East Coast, they moved back, and there was an event that happened out west that started developing for him a drinking problem, and that is ultimately why they divorced, because he has a drinking problem. And it came about once Leia was already born. So he was trying to manage the problem while doing some really, really shitty stuff for Pinkerton, while also trying to keep his marriage alive. And ultimately that fell apart, and she took the kid and left. And he went back to the only thing that he knows how to do, which is Pinkerton.
Right.
I thought you were going to say drinking.
Oh God!
Sorry, wait, did I say the only thing he knows how to do? He has 2 things he knows how to do.
Just
That's the
the
other one.
two.
That's
Where
the
are
three.
they now?
Drinking
Where are
and
Margaret
pinking.
and Leah?
I don't like pinking as a verb.
Whoop.
Oh, did we lose Ned?
Oh shit! We
Oh,
lost
oh,
And poof.
wow.
Poof.
No, that's not on purpose though. That's just the internet being a pain in the butt.
There he goes.
Well,
I still
yeah,
can
bummer.
hear him.
I know. I
Let
can hear
this-
like little echoes of
Let
Ned.
this be a reminder to us all
Oh,
how
now he's
ephemeral
gone.
this state of being is.
Now he's all the way
yeah,
gone.
that's true. Way to call that into the room, Dan.
I'm just
Canadian
inviting
Mudkips
it in.
asks Campbell, did you have any names in mind for Sweetie's baby?
Yeah. The first one that came to mind, and this is not because of where the campaign is set, but I wanted to name her May, because there's kind of like a, there's kind of like a come what may, kind of like a hopeful thing to that. And then also, the true truth is that the movie A League of Their Own is so important to me, and May Mortabito was always my favorite character. And when I would go up to bat, my mom would yell "All the way, Meg," because like all the way, May. And if May is born this year, she'll be 16 in 1943 when the events of the All-American Girls Baseball League take place, so she can be a star baseball player.
Wow.
You really thought this through.
This is some deep lore.
That's awesome.
I love that so much.
Write this novella, please.
That's so good.
So my
Right?
daughter's going to be in the All-American Girls Baseball League.
I love that. I love that so much. All right. Well, I did have some more questions for Ned, but I guess we'll just have to ask them later. So let's move on to Trevor. Trevor, tell us a little bit more about Dicky Harrow and like your inspiration for him.
Sure. Well, he came from a lot of places. I mean, when I knew that we were doing something set in the early 20th century, I'm a huge history nerd, so I wanted to have him intertwined with some important historical events. So I went with World War I because it's always been an interesting subject of study for me. I also he was also heavily inspired by the show Boardwalk Empire. I don't know if anyone has ever seen that, but there's a character in that show who has the half face, the prosthetic face, because that was a real thing that was pretty common at that time after World War I, because medical science had developed to such a time when they could save these soldiers who got really grievously injured. The medical science was such a place where they could save their lives even when, you know, they were missing huge parts of their body. And I don't know, it's just sort of a such a singularly central thing to that time that felt like it's so endemic and iconic to that time specifically that I just wanted to explore it, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, him being from Boston, I'm from Massachusetts myself, and I love being from Massachusetts. I love Boston. I love that dialect. So I figured, you know, why not seize the opportunity to throw that to be, you know, Dicky Harrow and park the car, storm the barn, all over the place.
Do you have a natural dialect that you just don't use since you've been down here?
No, I don't. So it's the Connecticut River is the dividing line. If you're west of the Connecticut River, you sound like me, which is not much of anything. But if you're east of the Connecticut River,
you spicy, Trevs. Come on.
If you're east of the Connecticut River, then you park in the car. My grandmother though, my grandmother though, my mom's mom had a pretty lovable Boston dialect, and when my mom would get angry, she would kind of slip into it. I remember that when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't know. You know, hey,
there's a Ned.
A goon has entered the room.
Ned's back. All right, hang on, Ned. I'll throw you back in. We got you for a few more minutes.
It was the hat's haunted. Stand by.
We swear, Ned's here. We swear.
There we go. You should be popping up here in a second.
Oh,
There he is.
yeah.
Hey, there he is.
So just to finish off that last thought, so Leia and Margaret are in Dover, Delaware. That's where they're living now. They moved up, you know, they moved north, and you know, Buddy just kind of stayed where he was, and the rest of his story is still unwritten. And since he's still alive,
the rest is still unwritten.
Despite your best efforts, Ned.
Well, Ned, I had a couple of questions for you. One, what made you think Pinkerton? And two, when you told me Pinkerton, I had no idea what it was, so I did some Googling and just, he's gone again.
God damn. Oh shit. Is it the Pinkertons?
Maybe.
No, they're watching. They're cutting.
You asked. You asked.
He's back again.
Oh my god.
Okay, don't ask those questions.
Hang on.
Right?
Pop your new link in there. There he is. All right. Unmute you on my screen. All right, there he is. Okay, he's back again.
oh my god,
Is he back?
Oh boy,
Is he back?
I promise I'm here.
Okay.
It's
classic
the Pinkertons.
Sassafras!
Internet goblins be damned. I'm going to ask these questions because so when you told me about Pinkerton, I did some Googling because I had no idea who they were, and the first thing that like I latched onto was the union busting thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of me forcing that on you. Do you think what direction did you want to take him in initially?
No, I mean that's very much what he would have been doing. Like that's very much what he would have been doing after the West was settled. They were originally the first, like what you would consider Blackwater, like the first for hire military. They coined themselves as a detective agency, but they were really hired by oil barons and congressmen and politicians to do the dirty work with the legal standing that they could get away with it. They were the bullies. If you needed a hired army and you needed it quick, you hired Pinkerton, because you know all of their agents were able to carry a gun and a badge. They all sort of had prior military or law work. You know, they were a police officer at some point, and that's what he did. You know, he started off in police work and he made his way up to a higher pay grade. Yeah. Buddy's done a lot of bad shit, and I'm so used to playing paladins and clerics, and like I always find myself being drawn to the lawful good category, whatever that may be. And
It's
so
almost
I
like
really
we discussed this at drinks.
I really wanted to I really wanted to delve into, like, I don't know, maybe a little
Lawful bad.
lawful evil. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so a little mean.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't really put that together before,
Lawful
but that is
dirty.
Yeah.
it's incredibly true how very opposite he is from both you and most of the characters you play. Cool. I love that. So let's Trevor, do you have anything else that you want to talk about with Dicky? I know we jumped back to Ned to get him while we had him.
I'll tell. I will answer.
We'll keep circling around.
I can answer a bunch of the questions later tonight in the chat, like in the Patreon. I'm not Patreon. I'm losing my mind. In the Discord.
Which is linked with Patreon, so it's understandable.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go have some dinner with my kiddo.
Yay.
Wait, what's
Gaggle.
dinner? What's dinner? What's birthday dinner?
Ooh, I don't know yet. It's whatever he wants. It's his birthday.
Oh,
Nice.
You know.
What a dad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have fun. Tell Aiden we all say happy birthday. Happy
Yay.
birthday.
Absolutely.
Love.
I want a slice of that cake.
Thank you, Gaggle. Love you all.
Yeah, with love from the Goons and the Gaggle. And yeah, thank you, Ned. We will see you shortly. All right, let's see. So now let me get to the screen where we there we go. Okay. All right, so now it's just the four of us again.
I can
Well,
still
hello.
see Ned's ghost. Oh, now it's gone.
It feels so intimate.
So let's see. Where were we? So okay, Trevor, anything else from you? Otherwise, we can pop over to Dan and see if
not
he has
ready.
anything he wants to.
Is Dicky a nickname?
Yeah. For Richard. Classic.
King
Yeah,
Richard?
he was born in Southie, which is in Boston. He was the youngest of 8 kids.
Oh, yeah. Catholic?
Yep, you gotta believe a good Irish Catholic boy. And yeah, he enlisted right when the United States joined the war in 1917. And the reason that he's actually in Mayfield is because after he came back from the war and he had his prosthetics, everyone from his old life just like didn't know how to handle him. Like his family didn't know how to talk to him. All his old friends and colleagues, like he couldn't get a job. So that's why he moved to nowhere, Ohio, and got a job as a projectionist in a movie theater because he
As
was
the Phantom of the movie theater.
The Phantom of the Theater. Yeah, exactly.
That's so good.
He was just in the dark all day.
The Phantom of the movie theater thing is too perfect.
Yeah, it was really kind of great how that kind of just happened. I don't even know if that's like, did you have that in mind when you were coming up with them at all?
Well, no, because I met you gave us that document before we started, Kay, with like some suggestions of like people you might know or places you might work, etc. And so I saw that old man Pearson had a movie theater, and I figured, oh well, that would kind of be perfect if he was just up in the projection booth all day. Then he would never have no one would ever look at him, and if it's just one old man running the place, then yeah. So I figured that would be the perfect place.
Yeah, that is pretty perfect. I think based on the document I gave you, which yes, just to fill the gaggle in, I did write up a document when I first started, which just had some people, places, most of them just ripped right from the book, one or two maybe that I had come up with to supplement that. And yeah, just gave all of my players a list of people they might know and connections they might have to the town, if any. They also had the option of being like from out of town, just visitors.
And this campaign was a really nice chance to get Dicky out of the movie theater, and I don't know. I'm really glad that he got to spend one day out there.
Yes, vibrato. Yes, vibrato. Yes, vibrato. Come on, now.
I love that movie so much.
I love that.
It's a fantastic movie.
Go off.
Great.
Dan, Dan, I'm going to choose to ignore that you just said that you've never seen it, and instead just make sure you do before we next speak.
Wait,
No, that's okay.
Daniel.
No, he didn't. We're gonna gloss over it. Dan, tell us about Hugsley. Hugsley, what's
Who?
the Hugsley? Tell us about Hugsley Lacka. Tell us about your inspiration for him, the things that we might not know about him, and actually, let's see if we can loop in a question that we got from Canadian Mudkips actually in Discord. Why don't you tell us what's the deal with the wigs?
The deal with the wigs. Yes.
Plus all the other stuff.
Yeah. So I'll answer the question first for Canadian, for Bestie. Hugsley kind of talks about it in the finale. When he gets that 4 on perceiving Gray and sees that Gray has been dyeing his hair. And now I'm thinking of like gray hair and dyeing, but that's irrelevant and it's not what's happening. So just pretend I didn't tell you anything I'm thinking right now.
Great.
And so what Hugsley's been doing is he moved to Mayfield, got this job, moved into the apartment where he spent so much time with the love of his life that just disappeared. And what he's been doing since he moved there is he's been going around the town trying to investigate without letting anyone know that he's actually knows Gray or is interested in Gray. So he's been wearing disguises. He's been spending a lot of time at the hospital looking at John Doe's, and he just keeps changing his appearance. And I don't know how successful he is because I don't know how many black people are in Mayfield. But
I'm also picturing him in a platinum blonde, like Florence Henderson wig.
yeah. But I will say this. If the population of Mayfield is 1 African American, I'm pretty sure people think there's probably like 10 African Americans in Mayfield.
They're multiplying. That old school racism. I will say, Dan, that is one thing. I think themes of that, like themes of sort of the racist environment that was the United States in the 1920s, sort of like we're always sort of scratching at the outside of this game. Just as the keeper, I didn't really feel comfortable bringing that in. I didn't trust myself to handle that with the kind of like delicacy that I think would be needed to be bringing that already very difficult, sensitive topic into a game where we're like prodding and pushing buttons and like messing with people's minds. So I think in my mind, Mayfield in the 1920s, like racism, didn't really.
I mean, to be honest, in this
version, I just wanted to sort of not have that be part of the story.
Yeah, but to be honest, like even during Reconstruction and even like shortly after slavery ended, you still had African Americans holding political seats. So like there was a lot of like racism and hatred, but there are also pockets of like actual like acceptance and actual agency and power. And so life is a fucking mixed bag, man.
It's true.
And I think we got a nice little bag going with our Cthulhu campaign.
I think so too, and I think it wound up working out pretty well because elements of that were part of your story, and so it's not like we were glossing over it. It's not like we were ignoring it. It was part of the story in a way. It just wasn't something that we were really diving into. But I think some elements of Hugsley, obviously his race and his relationship to the town and things from his past, like that, it was part of the story. It just wasn't something that I really felt the need to dive too much into. But thank you for bringing that to the story in a way that I think was delicate and well managed and tasteful.
Yeah. You know, I love something tasty.
Don't you ever.
But the Hugsley deep dive. So
yes,
let's see. Okay, yeah. So there were a lot of influences. I don't know if the Gaggle knows this, but there was almost no Hugsley. Hugsley almost didn't exist in this campaign because I was teching Streetcar. Someone's asking about it in the chat, and I was doing a bunch of other things, and I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to play this on Wednesday because Mondays are theater days off. But we managed to make it work. The sessions where I like popped in briefly and then hopped out was like literally on like dinner breaks, and I was like doing a costume change, even though I'm a sound person. Like it was kind of bananas. But so the name for Gray, like I said earlier, came from Streetcar. No, I'm not going to spoil Streetcar. There's a lost love who's called Alan Gray, and he keeps being referred to as the Gray Boy. And so I was deep in my throes of Streetcar, and I was inspired by the name, and so I called him Gray Boyd. But Hugsley comes from New York City. His family, however, comes from New Orleans, and so he has very deep roots in the South, but roots that he's not very familiar with. And his family's really big into superstition. Some might say in the past they've been involved in the occult or voodoo.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so Hugsley's journey of depth psychology is him trying to make sense of the strange things that happen with his family.
Oh, I
And,
love
Yeah.
that.
And this was me trying to be like, Kay, I want to use my magic points, and I had no idea how to unlock it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me now the mechanic you had in mind?
Okay, I will. So, okay, yes, that sort of leads me into. So, let me first start off by saying, by giving a little synopsis of like what's in the book for this story. So, essentially, you're in the town of Mayfield. You can play these pre-generated investigators or not, and the setup is very much like what we saw. You are either from this town or not. You start noticing that like some people are just behaving strangely. And the attack on the what's the old guy's name who attacked the house on the first night, that's like right out of the book, is that he should attack the players in some capacity. I had you all at this NPC's house just because that kind of made more sense to me rather than like starting you all. Essentially what's written is like you all start in a tavern, that like you're meeting because something weird's going on and you all know each other and you want to talk about it. So I just, episodes 1 for me was like a way to sort of bring all these disparate characters together into this one environment where that call to action could happen. So from there, it's just a matter of like meeting NPCs. Actually, the document, my notes document I've mentioned before, is called The Onion of Evil. That's straight from the book. It says like, oh, so it's the layout of this this investigation is kind of like an onion, where you start on the outer layers and start to like peel back layers, and like eventually get to the center where you find Professor Hart and the telescope. And so basically the idea is people are looking through this telescope. For some reason, all of the stuff I added about like the meteor and the lens, that's all from in here.
Cool.
But everything but in the
Cool.
book, it's like for some reason, something about this telescope makes you either blessed or broken. That's what they call it in the
Cool.
book. So there's all this like, there's sort of this theme in the story of like the haves and the have-nots. Like some people are blessed and get given these talents and these like unique abilities, or rather like something that was either their passion or a passion that they were more secretive about gets brought to the fore. And then, it gives you a whole bunch of NPCs to mess with, some of which I incorporated, some of which I didn't, some of which I like just manipulated and made fit the story a little better. Eventually getting to Professor Hart, finding out about the telescope, doing whatever you will with it, and then so the telescope happens, and then if the telescope is broken and this connection to this like otherworldly deity is severed, then what happens in our story happens. The blessed become insane and like bloodthirsty, and the broken just like fall down.
What happens if it's not
unconscious
broken?
where they are. If the telescope's not broken, then that doesn't happen. Or in fact, there even are some contingencies in the book, like if the connection is reestablished, which can happen either by like making another telescope, or one of the blessed can like pursue one of their passions in such a way that like recreates this connection to this. They call it the great mind in the book, which I think I called it a couple of times in the adventure. But like just for example, there are characters who become blessed and are just like insanely driven to learn more about like biology. They start like dissecting animals. They start dissecting people. They like things start going really crazy. So like if the telescope is broken, the keeper has the option of reestablishing the connection to the great mind through science. Maybe they learn something so deep and hidden about the human body that like this connection is reestablished, and all that stuff with them going crazy doesn't happen. That's like that, that was kind of optional. It's very open-ended, as any good adventure should be.
So question, Kay, in your brain as the keeper, if the telescope wasn't broken, is the other reality that the people who are blessed and cursed, what was it?
Broken.
Broken.
The broken would just stay broken and the blessed would just stay manic?
Essentially, yeah. They would just okay, so
do they try to do evil?
So the way that is sort of left open-ended in the book as well, and the way that worked out in my mind is that they sort of wind up just being very selfishly drawn to the idea of advancing Mayfield's interests. So they want to like take over the lumber mill. They want to mine the gold. They want to get all this money and all of this like this power so that they can just advance their own interests and eventually like branch out and like learn why it is that this telescope does this to people. And like, I think in their mind, ideally the whole world would eventually be this way. This caste
blessed
system.
Or broken.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's a way for me to keep my man. Damn.
I know.
So the one thing I'll say about that, Daniel, is that I kind of started this early on. When you told me about the character that you came up with, Gray, I immediately was just like, I think he's the one who came up with this telescope. Like he's the one who invented it. I don't know. It felt right.
Like why would he just disappear and
Yeah, like why would he just disappear? Like what? Because like that's, you sort of gave me this great mystery to come up with an explanation for of like why is he gone? Why was he in the apartment before? Why did he stop talking to you? So it just made sense. It fit so nicely into it. So that's what gave me the idea that like he studied with Professor Hart. He came up with this telescope. Also, the whole thing about the mine and the asteroid and like smelting that into the lens, that's also from in here. That wasn't in the book.
Yes.
And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the last thing I'll say, I promise, and then I want you all to ask the questions that I know you have, is that I forget what it was actually. Just that's all stuff I came up with directly in response to Dicky punching Wesley Frost.
Oh shit!
The mine and the asteroid, none of that existed.
All up after I punched a guy?
Listen,
none of that existed before you punched him.
What you mean?
What you mean? What was there before he punched Wesley Frost?
So originally, I figured you guys were going to want to destroy the telescope because you'd heard about it. It's like I could just tell that that's where your motivations were and that's where the story was going. And then it was just going to be that survive. Like the book lays it out as a survival horror. You are trying to like rescue what broken you can while escaping the blessed. And you can either like skip town or hunker down and hide. Like the last day of it is supposed to be a survival horror. Yeah, the last day of it. And like I kind of alluded to that a little bit, but the last day is supposed to be a survival horror story. It's not supposed to be like a climactic mine shaft exploration. That was all. That was just like, I just liked that better. And so that's why I wanted to give you that inspiration, Trevor, because I was so grateful that you gave me the catalyst to come up with that ending because I just liked it so much better than what I was planning on doing.
Also, if we had a day of survivor horror, this would have been 7 more episodes. Like
it's true.
That's also true. Yeah.
We would have role played every single night. Like we made it through another day, sit around the campfire and talk about our feelings. It would have taken forever.
I have a couple more Hugsley things.
Yes. Ask. Well, let's see. So, Campbell, did you have a question, and then we can skip to Dan, or we can, whatever. We can jump around as we see fit.
I want to get all Dan's questions. I was just going to ask, and somebody else asked in the chat, about what we would have seen if we looked in the telescope, because I did that sanity roll that I passed, but you thought I had failed for a second, and you were like, you have an urge to go look in the telescope. Like I was headed that way. What would I have seen in the telescope?
So, I don't really know that I have an exact thing that you would have seen if you looked through it. Just like you see something, and the book is called Nameless Horrors, and that's a theme in all of the stories. Is that like we don't know what's the horror, we don't know the origin of the horror. We just know that it's horrible. So when Father Fitzgerald looked through it, he was convinced that he saw God. Other people, I'm sure, maybe saw just. I think I said that Howard looked through it and just like saw in like a 5-dimensional. He saw like 5D vision, and was just like able to see time, or maybe that was Gray.
That was Gray, yeah.
That was Gray, yeah. So it would have.
But he
been
didn't
something.
see Hart's head smacking on that rock, did he?
That's true. That's true.
I love that.
So, well, because he didn't become like a psychic savant. He just sort of like
Mhm.
understood the universe in a deeper way that essentially made him go insane.
Same.
The way the book handles it, the book says that you can do one of two things. Either all of your investigators should just become broken, because the broken survive.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
The broken survive. So it says like what the recommendation from the book is, just have them go broken. You can have them roll a die if you want, just to like add some mystery to it. But they should be broken because they have a chance of surviving. Or if you're open to a situation that could eventually wind up being a little PvP-ish, you could have them roll a sanity check, and either if they fail or they pass, I forget which, then they become blessed. And like just pick something from your origin, like some sort of passion you have, either on the surface or deeply hidden, to just become obsessed with and like insanely gifted at. So to answer one of your questions, Dan, that was what I had in mind. If you were to look through the telescope and become blessed, then you would have been able to like
cured
unlock
cancer.
You could have you would have unlocked some of those like old blood voodoo magic powers. I had no idea how I would have handled that. That's not something I really planned for, because again, I didn't really think you guys were going to look through the telescope. But that was what I figured. That I think I told you at one point, like, Dan, there is a way in this adventure that you could unlock those powers. I'm just not going to.
Yeah, I want to do it without being bad, though. You know?
It's kind of the monkey's paw, you know, like you get
Cthulhu for you.
You get
well, I'm a
magical powers.
human. I have hands.
You get magic powers, but you go insane and kill all your friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Not great.
Those
Same.
damn monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
The monkey's
Yeah.
paw is such a scary story.
It really
Spooky.
is.
Ooh, I don't know it. And I just got the urge to have like Campbell like read it to me on like a Twitch or something.
Well, I'll not
Can
read
we
it
read-
to you, and we put it on the RSS feed.
I love
Ooh.
that. Please do
That's
that.
a great idea.
All right. Wait, did you have more questions, Dan?
No, I have a little more Hugsley lore. Or
Okay.
like where Hugsley came from. Where Hugsley came
Please.
from.
Please.
So I personally
give us that, and then we'll look at some goon questions, some Gaggle questions. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I love psychology, and I love learning how things work. I have a very curious mind, and one writer and psychologist that I really like is Carl Jung, and he deals a lot with archetypes in what the human mind does as individuals and as a group. Like the idea of like a collective consciousness is something that he introduced into psychology, and people kind of thought he was like a little crazy and witchy during his time. And like his example of what the collective unconscious is like, he's like, it's as if you were in a room that you know really well. And then if you explore the house more, you start finding more things that you don't know. And if you go into the basement, there's a space that's even more stranger. And then if there's like a latch in the floor and you go down in the floor, it gets even stranger and deeper, but you still kind of know it. And eventually it's like a primordial skull of like a monkey or something. And so like his whole thing is like the mind is something that's very personal and current, but then there's also layers to it that still have a familiarity that you kind of can like sense and feel that are connected to older and deeper things. And so that's why Hugs is a depth psychologist, because like I like all this strange stuff, and I'm like, I feel connected to the universe. Why is that? And so like I
really
use
cool.
Hugsley as a way to kind of like scratch that itch and play my fantasy of being a psychologist.
Yes.
That's so cool. That fits so well into the story. I mean, just the whole concept of like discovering something that was deep within you. Yeah, I really love that.
Yeah.
Any more Hugsley lore, Dan?
I would just say all of like the interesting things of Hugsley kind of happened by accident. Like there was like a
The
Discord
fact that he's
chat.
named Hugsley?
Like there was a Discord chat I had with Kay when I was like, oh shit, I can actually play. And Kay was like, well, great, what are you going to play? And I was like, I don't know. In the matter of like, I think it must have been like 10 minutes, I came up with this whole Grey Boy thing and the character and all this stuff. And me and Kay were just like riffing, and it happened like in an instant. And I was like, that was kind of cool. And then the voiceover, the one day where I couldn't show up, me and Kay
That
whipped
was
that
so
up in like
cool.
in like 20 minutes. Like it's crazy. It was like really bizarre. Like
that was so fun.
It happened so fast though. It felt like it was like writing itself.
It was very, it was, this is going to sound bad, but I don't mean it to be bad. It was very mechanical in the way that it happened, which is not to say that it was like rote and emotionless, but just the system of how it worked out was such like a systematic, like 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Like you said, we knew you weren't going to be there. And you were like, well, let's, can I record something that we can play? And I was like, okay, well, I've done flashbacks in the past. We can do one of those. And so then I was like, all right. So at first I thought, okay, I'll record both of our lines and I'll just play it. But then I was like, all right, what's the scene you want to play out? And you gave me a little synopsis. And then I was like, all right, cool. So then I wrote a script. And then, so it was like, 1 was you being like, here's the scene, here's the synopsis. 2 was me being like, all right, here's the script. 3 was you recording the lines. And then I decided to just read mine live because I felt like that'd be more active and interesting to watch. But yeah, no, that worked out really well. And I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah, and a lot of like stuff about Hugsley kind of just like happened. Like I didn't make him thinking about his whole tying memory to physical sensation that happened like in the middle of gameplay, and it just I don't know, it just felt appropriate. I don't know, it was kind of strange.
Well, it also, I loved that. And it also gave me a lot of stuff to play with. I mean, not outside even just of Gray, like all of you players out there, when you're writing backstories, give your keepers and your DMs a character from their past that they can play with. I sort of unintentionally, maybe a little intentionally, made all of those characters that you gave me evil. Sorry.
Thanks, Kay.
I won't always do that. I feel like in the future, like for every Call of Cthulhu game I run for you guys from now on, you're gonna be like, no, Kay, you cannot have this backstory person because you're just going to make them try to kill me. And I promise I won't always try to do that. I'll try to keep it interesting.
Campbell, do you believe that?
Dusty
don't
doesn't
give him
either.
Dusty. Campbell, don't give him Dusty.
Don't give him Dusty.
To be fair, Campbell, you kind of made Howard a little evil before I got my mitts into him.
Yeah. I mean, Howard was going through some stuff.
Howard's a problem.
I think in your mind he had hope for redemption. In my mind, I was like, nope.
Dang, really? Oh,
actually, no, not from the jump, But I did decide fairly early on that I wanted to have a scene where he like lashed out at you, which we had, and then I knew, okay, well, what would happen next? He would perhaps go to Father Fitzgerald for some advice, some counsel, and that could only lead to him looking through the telescope. And at that point, is it more interesting? God. At that point, is it more interesting if he becomes blessed or broken? Obviously blessed. So that's what I went with.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite moments in the whole campaign. Just the way that you two played that scene was something like that can go so wrong, but in our case, it just went so right. And both of your performances were just...
I still remember your posture, Kay. You were like, it's me, Howard. And I was like, ew.
I loved...
Pretty entrancing to watch.
I loved that scene. And I was just going through today, because I was typing up all of the information I have about Sweetie for an upcoming Patreon perk. And I was going back through that Signal conversation that you and I had, Kay, before you did that Arnold flashback.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the check-in that you did was just enough information that I did not see that scene coming at all. And was like totally shocked when Howard was awake and up. But you had checked in about enough specifics about the intimate partner violence that I kind of knew like the extent to which it would go. And that allowed me to play out the scene in a way that felt totally thrilling and really fun. And I've done enough. I've done enough films and plays as a woman with like a big eyes and an open face is like bad things happen to me. And playing out that scene with you was just like it was like, this is the way the world could be. It's like
only.
I had
If only.
enough information to feel like safe and have a lot of fun, but not enough information that it wasn't still scary. I loved it.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. And yeah, like I think the way, because I also did not want it to go too far. I didn't want him to like hit Sweetie or attack you, or I didn't want to like play out of combat. And the way that I then sort of made that the threat of, like, I wanted the threat of violence to be there without too much actual violence. Like, he got violent, make no mistake, but he didn't put hands on you. And so I decided kind of early on that I wanted him to like smash the perfume bottle, and then that would come back to bite him. So like he was sort of suffering from the consequences of his own actions. He would slip on this bottle and hit his head, which like he's already got this head injury. So that was just going to be like that was going to be like a wake up call. Yeah. And unfortunately, and the reason that Howard did to me is so interesting is that he got this tragic, because I think he got this tragic ending because he was trying to do right by Sweetie. He went to the only, if only he'd known more about Hugsley and what Hugsley does, he maybe would have gone to Hugsley. But instead, he did what most people in his position in that time would have done and sought the advice of a clergyman. He went to like seek a higher power, and it wound up biting him in the ass.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. Rawr. Let's see. So here's a question for all of you guys. This is from Rebel Flame, our good friend Rebel Flame.
Hey, Rebel.
And Rebel Flame just simply wants to know if you had any favorite moments in the campaign, other than the ones we've already mentioned, I suppose.
My most favorite moment is the Dicky, where are you? Like that is like my favorite moment.
We have a Tyler, ladies and gentlemen. All right, hey. Tyler is here. Let me switch screens and put his video
here
feed
in.
in.
Computer Tara just arrived in the chat.
Oh my god, everything's coming up.
Tara him up.
All right, 1 second, Tyler. You're almost on the stream. You will be right about now. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. We got Tyler. We got Benny Kaplan himself.
All right, yeah. So
hello, friends.
Hello.
We were just talking about favorite moments.
Yes.
Sorry
so Dan,
continue.
No, not at all. Dan had just started. Dan, tell us about one of your favorite moments from the campaign. I know what it is, but start over because now Tyler's here.
Start over from the beginning?
Yeah. Well, not the very beginning, but just like what was the moment?
My first memory as a child, I was walking on the beach and I had sand between my toes. And no, anyway,
right, fast forward a little bit. Yeah.
I have an office quote for that. That's just like on the border of inappropriate.
What's the quote?
Warm, dark, wet. Mother bites the cord.
I'm guessing that's Dwight.
Yes.
Of course it is. Dwight's a G.
Campbell, my mind went to suddenly I was awake.
Wait, this is not what people ask me to talk about. But those two pictures of me, and that cat, and twice people have posted those are the same pictures.
That office meme, yeah. I thought about posting it myself, but then people did it for me, so I didn't have to.
Same energy. Anyway, what I'm supposed to be talking about is my favorite moment from the campaign is the Dicky, where are you? And I think that's something I'm learning, right? Like in this current moment in my life, which is whether I'm thinking about the past or the future. And when I get so caught up in it that I forget where I am and I'm either worrying or super stressed or super fearful or, I don't know, making up imaginary conversations that I'm going to have in the future that are like stressing me out and pissing me off. And it's like remembering like where I am, and I can spend that energy caught up in that, but it's actually not doing anything. And there's things I can be doing and enjoying now. And so that's my favorite moment because it's something I've been like learning myself personally. And it felt so good, like supporting my boy Trevor. You know what I mean? You know, looking him in the eyes. Nice to meet you, Doug. You know, I loved it.
That was great.
Loved it.
Yeah.
No, that was really good. I mean, all of that stuff. That was y'all made me cry. That was the first time that I actually like shed a tear on stream.
Won't be the last.
There were so many great moments through this campaign. It just exceeded. This exceeded every expectation that I had, and my expectations were high. You know, I think that I think my favorite moment was when we went to the church and the second time, and we talked to Father Fitzgerald the second time.
Really?
That was a fun scene. I had a good time with that one.
Why? Wait, why really?
Well, when we finished the stream last night, I was like, I suck. I was like, I felt.
Yeah. Well, usually, in my experience, that means you did a great job.
I was like, I shouldn't have taken us there. Like, I thought I could have gotten it. Like, I thought I could go and like pretend to do confession, and I made everybody sit through a church service when everybody was trying to like go and like have adventures. And then I like had a whole scene. I felt really bad afterwards for how much time I took.
My favorite parts.
Not at all. I almost just called you sweetie. Campbell, that was so good. I had such a fun time with that whole thing, and I was not expecting you to go to the church, but I'm really glad that you did. I think a lot of good came from that.
You just had that sermon ready?
Well, no, I didn't. But the book specifically mentions that Leviticus passage that he reads, the one about about slavery, basically. And like condoning slavery, which, sort of ties into this whole like blessed versus broken, haves, have-nots thing. And then the name of the adventure, like I mentioned, is "And Some Fell on Stony Ground," which is also another Bible passage. So, I mean, you guys going back to the church gave me the opportunity to go look up, King James Bible online and find that passage and then just read from it. And then, okay, while I'm on like Bible stuff, the Pleiades star cluster, was just like the first thing that came to mind that what the telescope could be pointing at. But then later on, I was like, okay, when they find the observatory telescope, and then I was like, okay, but later on when they find the actual telescope, like what direction are they looking in? So I literally went to Google and I was like, what are some constellations that have like esoteric occult significance? And they were like, oh, the Pleiades. I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, no, they're sometimes called the Seven Sisters. They are within the Taurus constellation, Trevor. And there was this writer whose initials are like AAB. I'm forgetting her name, but she's like regarded as no, it's like Anne something Baker, Agatha Ann Baker, something like that. I forget her exact name, but she's regarded as like the preeminent esoteric scholar of like the modern era, as in like the 20th century. So that was something that just like fell so nicely into place. Oh, I loved that. So yeah, I did not have that sermon prepared, but I did know like, so that's what gave me the idea to like, and then I found out that there is a Bible passage that mentions the Pleiades, and that's what I was trying to scream at Dicky.
Holy moly.
In that telescope moment. Because it also just like, I read the rest of the passage and it's so just like, the mood of it to me is just like, you are a puny human, you know nothing. So I just like, that's something that he could just scream at you and it'd be so cool. So I did not have the sermon planned, but I did have a couple of like bookmarks in the Bible, so to speak, little things that I could pull out if need be.
Nice.
Yeah. Because again, I wasn't setting out to make like a Catholic horror, but it kind of wound up being that.
Yeah.
And boy did it.
And like, so obviously Father Fitzgerald was going to be using Bible verses as a weapon frequently. Yeah. So I needed to have some in my quiver, so to speak.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was talking to a friend today who's like interested in what we're doing, and he was like, well, we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I guess when you're in like a small town Americana situation and there's an existential horror, like if it's people are going to turn to God, there's going to be like a funnel.
Yeah. And that's just like, I've said it so many times before, but I love horror so much. And I love horror that then, my favorite, like sort of horror movies, at least, are like haunted house, possession, supernatural kind of movies. And in so many of those movies, there's a part in the film where like the two main characters turn to each other and go, we need to call a priest.
Yes.
It's just like, it's so inevitable. Inevitable. And like, it's overdone because it works. But for so long, I've just like, every time I watch a movie and they like call a priest, I'm like, gah, all right, like walk that well-worn path. But what I've wanted to see,
scary though, like a exorcism
I
of Emily
know.
Rose when the cross comes off loose and goes upside down.
I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying it doesn't work at all. Just sometimes it feels like a little bit of a cop out. But when it's done well, oh yeah, I so agree. Nothing scares me more. But then for the longest time, and like someone who's good at writing screenplays, please write this movie. For the longest time, I've wanted to see a movie where they have that moment where they decide to call the priest, and they do, and the priest is like doing what he does. But then like whatever demon it is, like just overpowers the priest and says something to the effect of, I'm older than the Bible. Like, I'm older than your conception of God. Like, do you really think you have any power over me? That's the horror movie I want to see.
Spook.
I want to see that so bad.
Let's do it.
Tyler, you're here. Tyler, why don't you
Benny.
tell us a little bit about Benny Kaplan? This is something I asked everyone at the top. Tell us a little bit about like you maybe tell us one or two things that we might not know about him. Give us a little bit of like a dive into his story, and then also perhaps dip into a little bit of like what your inspiration for him was. And then I have a follow-up question, so don't let me move on before I ask it.
All right, loaded question here. So, I wasn't prepared.
What did you think we were going to do on this Q&A stream?
we can talk about something else and let Tyler think.
Yeah, no, I got it. No, so
Q&A stands for Queen and ABBA, my two favorite bands that were popular in the 80s.
That's what I thought. You know, I had all of my I had Bohemian Rhapsody queued up. I was ready to go.
Galileo.
Yes, falsetto.
But I don't really remember how I got on the thought line of a boxer. But so then I just started looking into like 1920s era boxing, and I found out that it was, I think I said this a few times on the stream, but it was like the article I found was called like the golden age of Jewish boxing. So I was like, perfect. I was like, this would be what I would do if I was in the 20s. You know what I mean? So that got me on just like kind of researching all the different boxers, which is how I then came up with my name, which was two different boxers. I took two different Jewish boxers. I took one first name, one last name, and threw it together.
Nice.
And then, so I just kind of started thinking, like I read up on the time period a little bit. And that's when I read a little bit about like the slums of Philly and stuff. And I was like, okay, so Jewish boxer, Jewish slums of Philly. It was like, so then like the part of the backstory that didn't really come out was the way he earned his nickname, the Kosher King.
Yeah, tell us how you earned the nickname.
So that I imagine like whatever they did on the corner of their neighborhood, whether it was like selling newspapers or whatever, everyone always had to protect their turf. So my idea was, Benny Kaplan was just always the biggest, toughest kid on his block. So when someone started encroaching, that's who they went and got to, defend their territory. And, he didn't always, look like he won the fight, but he sure as hell always put up and, just as much as the other guy. And
he could always send a message at the very least.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he wasn't called the Kosher King for nothing,
Yes.
Thought it had to do with delis.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't like a good kosher deli?
Yeah, right.
After he would whoop some ass, he would go get a bagel and lox.
It's like it's like, and I'm not saying that this is the right philosophy, but like something that a lot of people tell kids when they're being bullied is like, just if someone's gonna fight you, fight back. Don't just roll over, because if they're looking for easy prey and you fight back, you're not it. Mm-hmm. Like even if you lose the fight, they'll move on to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not a child.
That is not parenting advice.
No.
But,
Yeah, full disclaimer. I am like
These views do not represent the views of
Full disclaimer. No. Full disclaimer. Like those are not my views or anybody else's in this entity, but those are things that I've heard before, and I'm by no means a child psychologist. But I think that's sort of like the philosophy that he might have been going under. Like, I'll fight back, and even if I lose, they're not going to bother messing with me again because they know that I fight back. They'll go pick on the guy who won't.
Exactly.
I also heard if you act crazy, people won't fight you. So I try that sometimes. These aren't views that represent. No, whatever. Yeah, we know.
He's not President Critifildium and the Goons Zealous.
Don't hit me. I'll hit me. I'm crazy.
Exactly.
Hey, Arnold, come on now.
Exactly.
Kay, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So I'm just curious. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what this was like for you as keeper. I know it's not your first time in the big chair.
Sure.
But what was successful? What went differently than you thought it would? What did you learn? Anything at all?
Yeah. You're right. It's not the first time. It's not my first time in the big chair. I have run, but it certainly, I can count on less than one hand the number of times I've been in the big chair. I think because actually the first time I ever ran a Call of Cthulhu game was with y'all in the car on our way up to Rhode Island for our beach weekend.
Vaguely remember that.
Vaguely. Yeah, Dan, you vaguely remember it because you were awake for it.
That absinthe is hitting my character.
That was so funny.
Oh, it really was. It really was. But yes. So as I think as far as like what worked, I think it's just like giving myself the time to really like sit in this story and like, because when I prepped every other time I've prepped adventures, it was always sort of like a last minute thing. Like I think I prepped for that Call of Cthulhu game the night before we left. And that's not really enough time to like know the story. I think so. Something that works for me is giving myself enough time that I don't have to like pressure myself to come up with stuff, that I can just like give myself time for the inspiration to strike if it will, or if it doesn't, like I can have enough time to think of something else. And so, I spoke about that a little bit. I think on Goon Talk, I spoke about that a little bit. With
Goon Talk?
What's Goon Talk? Campbell, do you want to mention a little bit about our new patron-only
talk show podcast hosted by me and Ned, in which we interview other goons about the events of the latest STRAHDCAST episode and also talk about their characters? You can get that as a patron at any level on our Patreon.
You mean that Goon Talk on the very same RSS feed that the audio from these streams always ends up on?
Wowie.
Yeah, true. Nice plug, y'all.
Well done,
Nailed it.
So I forget what I was saying. Blah 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 blah. Words.
Inspiration time for inspiration to strike, or you think of it yourself.
So just for example, the very first time I ran a D&D game, there was like this. It was like a one episode module, very short. And when you all got to like the final climactic battle, I was like, all right. Here, the big bad evil guy is going to say some monologue and I'll improv something. And then it got to that part and I was like, you're in my house and I'm angry.
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like that was about as good as it got. So I was like, so I think I learned something back then about like what I need to do as part of my prep process. And that is coming up with things that people might say. I think I'm pretty good at like rolling
your milkshake.
I drink it up. So I think I'm pretty good at like rolling with the punches, improv style, and coming up with story stuff on the fly. But when it comes to like dissemination of information, I need to have that like backed up, ready to go. So I think I definitely took that note. I did that a lot. And just for example, the first one that comes to mind, not only the stuff that like Hart would say, Howard would say, but that whole conversation that Margaret and Benny had, Tyler, the morning that you spoke, because I was like, because I had some time to prep that. I was like, I know that Benny is sleeping in his house. He's going to wake up in the morning. He's going to see his wife. He's going to want to say something to her. What are some things they might say? So I just had some things ready to go, lined up.
I thought you were setting him up, Kay. I thought something terrible was going to happen.
I mean, I knew that he was I knew that he was already. I didn't have to. Like terrible things were already going to happen to all of you. I didn't have to add anything else to that.
Oh, great!
You did some incredible work with those little sort of scenelets, those little entudes, Kay. Like
thank
the
you.
way you just mentioned Buddy's phone call with Leah.
Yeah.
The scene with Howard and Sweetie, like we just talked about, like those little one-on-one scenelets that popped up all throughout the campaign. it was some of the finest
Yeah.
work I've ever seen.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying so. Some of those were planned, some of those were not. Like you just mentioned the one with Leah. I don't think I even knew about Margaret and Leah as characters. Like I didn't know they existed until that night.
Holy
So like,
shit.
or no, until he first tried to call and got Margaret. So actually, I think the reason he got Margaret the first time was like, this is an easier conversation to have. If he speaks to her, she's gonna be like, "You son of a bitch!" Blah, blah, blah. Like, she's just gonna like yell shit at him, or maybe even hang up on him. So that's easier. So Margaret picked up the phone. After I had some time to think about it, I was like, okay, this time Leah picks up. And that even then though that whole conversation was improv. I didn't write any of that.
Oh, I cried the whole time. That was so great.
As for the operator character, like Cass just
Operator.
mentioned, that was just me being
Oh
an
my
idiot.
god! I just went back and watched the part. I can't remember which episode it is where Ned is trying to make a phone call, and you're all the different operators, and one of them is like, "I'm sorry. What was that? Sword?" And he's like, "No, sword." And you're like, "Sword, S as in Sally, W as in whiskey." And he's like, "No, Ford, F as in fuck yourself." It is so good. It's so funny.
Oh my god! I would
Thank you. That's very clear.
I would like money for us to have more operator scenes like that pop up on TikTok or like YouTube Shorts or something. I need more operators in my life.
This is a not so humble brag, but I do know because at one point, I ADHD hyperfixated on the entire NATO phonetic alphabet, which is the way that radio operators, like the terminology they use, and like police, it's still very much in use to which I'll rattle it off right now. It's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, what comes after E? F, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, Uniform, Victor, Whiskey, X-Ray, Yankee Zulu.
Okay, now can you say that in a lower voice and a little more raspy?
Don't do it. Don't do
Cool
it.
they got Romeo and Juliet in there.
I know,
Cool.
Trevor. I was just thinking the same
Isn't that cute?
thing.
Yeah.
Are you asking
Well
me?
done,
Are you asking for me to say it as Kaz?
That'll be Patreon content.
Alpha Bravo
There
Charlie.
you go.
I use it all the time when I'm talking to people on the phone. Like if I'm on the phone with some customer service, something or other, and they're asking me for a confirmation number, I'll just use the phonetic alphabet because I hate so much being like, no, D as in David, like B as in boy, like no, that's stupid. Of course, the problem is most of the time they know it, but when I deal with someone who doesn't know what I'm doing, they're like, why are you saying these weird words? And I'm like, just
use your brain.
Why aren't you saying these weird words, you nerd?
Yeah, like you are a customer service phone representative. Did you not learn the NATO phonetic alphabet? Yeah. Anyway, I forget why I started talking about the phonetic alphabet.
Lord Dragon was asking if our characters got blessed. Now that we know that there's a chance of them being broken, but if they did, what would their blessings have been?
That I would have left that entirely up to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell me something about your character's backstory that like is there either their overt passion or their hidden passion. Like I think the way I would have put it is like imagine you are given $1 million and just told to quit your job and do the thing you love. What is that thing? Also, to backtrack a little bit, we did get a question from, I think, a reiterated question from Kazi in the chat. And Kazi, actually, Kazi asked it in the chat and Charmy asked it in Discord, which is, what did Benny's kids see in the basement?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did mention earlier, the book gives you a whole bunch of examples of people who can be blessed and broken, like NPCs. One of them is this family, and I think they're called the Fergusons. I can look it up real quickly, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And one of the like pre-generated investigators that I could have given you guys to play is related to, I think, like the wife, like Glenda, I think is her name, Glenda Ferguson. Glenda and her husband something, whatever his. Well, yeah, exactly. Glenda and Brenda, doesn't matter, are both broken. but their twin daughters, Shirley and Maxine, are blessed.
Oh shit.
Oh.
So and Shirley and Maxine are like 12. So Glenda basically just like she goes into like Stepford Wives mode where she's just like baking pies and like projecting this like dead behind the eyes perfect household kind of thing. Meanwhile, her two daughters are like I mentioned before, fascinated with like biology and they start dissecting
shit.
They start dissecting like animals in the basement, and eventually they start dissecting their own father.
Oh shit!
So that was not something.
Console?
So I did not entirely work that into the story, but I always had that sort of in my back pocket as something I could bring up. So I think Glenda was like one of the church ladies that Margaret was hanging out with, and I think her kids were like dissecting a cat in the basement, and like Maxie and Margaret saw that and were like, "Fuck this," and got really terrified.
That's awful.
Yeah,
I
so
think
that's
what
I think they saw in the basement.
I think I know what Dicky's blessing would be.
Hit me.
So, because he had this thing, right? Like this disaster struck him like a thunderbolt, right? With that bullet passing through his eye. So I think his blessing would be, he could see through that missing eye, like seconds into the future, right before disaster is about to strike.
Cool.
You know,
I love that. Yeah, so maybe like something
so
like something
maybe
like
he
what
has a chance to avert it. Maybe he does. You know what I mean? Like
that's so Raven.
That's so Raven.
The mysterious me. Yeah. Wait, so the zoom in would be on the hole? The Raven zoom in would be on the hole? No.
Oh no! Oh god!
Holy shit!
That's so Dicky.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
So yeah, maybe his blessing would have been something like what Grey saw, like this sort of ability to sort of not necessarily see the future, but see. It's almost like, isn't there a D&D spell that's kind of like that, where you can sort of see maybe it's not D&D, maybe it's Pathfinder, where you can sort of like see the outcomes of what might happen, or maybe I'm just thinking of the Mistborn novels.
I think you're thinking of Augury.
Wizard.
Maybe I'm thinking of Augury, but this is no. You know what? I know what I'm thinking of. This is a thing in the Mistborn novels. There's a type of allomancer in those books that like if they burn this certain type of metal, they can see like possibilities of what might happen. So like if they go to punch somebody, they can see like one of three directions they may dodge in, and then like punch the vision and actually land the punch. Anyway,
cool.
So yeah, I love that, and that would have been really cool. But it also, I mean, you know, Dicky would have died. So, you know, it's kind of cool, kind of not cool. So one other question, also from Charmy, actually, in Discord, that's sort of along the same lines, is what happened to Charles Franz? Remember Charles Franz in the beginning, the kid who went missing? Dead.
How?
Totally dead. Honestly, I forget. But he was in
Who cares?
No, you know what? No. I think early on. Remember how like early on there was that broken who attacked you guys, and he was just really violent, because that can happen. Similar to how like the blessed can get certain abilities, being broken will bring certain things out of you. Like Glenda Ferguson becomes this like robotic homemaker. That guy who attacked you early on just became like feral and violent, and that happens to a lot of people who become broken. So I think maybe he had become like Charles Franz had just been like, you know, playing outside his house one night, and someone who was broken just like abducted him, like easy prey, just like very animalistic, feral, like, you know, the dog lying down next to me one day killed a baby rabbit because it was easy prey. It like something like that, basically, just like on a really more devastating level, because it's a human.
That makes me think of like, I'm having a memory, and I have like just a weird note jotted down about kids in Dicky's movie theater that he saw. Like,
yes,
I can't remember, they were like behaving weirdly.
Yes. That also was something.
What's wrong with
that? Also was something I. That also was something I took from the book. Those are two boys who became blessed, and if you had managed, and there were a couple of other circumstances where I thought they might have come up, but they just there was one more circumstance where they may have come up, and that was if you had gone to Elmer's Steakhouse with Father Fitzgerald, they would have been at a table by themselves, just the two of them, having a conversation, and it would have turned out that they basically that they had been blessed and they had become incredibly well informed about physics. They would have been having a discussion about string theory if you'd gone to the steakhouse and listened to them.
See that?
Or if you had
going to
managed,
stay in motion.
We never made it to the steakhouse.
That's true. Or if you had managed to like see them, Dicky, in the theater and like maybe snuck up behind them and listened to them, they would have just been having an incredibly animated discussion about physics, beyond their
universe,
well beyond like their years, and also like the science of the time. Like they would have just had this uncanny understanding of the universe.
Oh, so so that means if all the blessed like died or went in permanently insane, that means old man Pearson is gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dead.
And after we invented the television.
That was so funny.
That was amazing.
Oh my God. The way
you ripped it away from me, Kay.
Oh, I think that was even better.
Well,
that was so funny.
That one wasn't even my idea. That one, he's in the book. He's in the book, and he is the owner of the theater in the book. And he, in the book, is climbing telephone poles because his blessing is that he has this like deep understanding of like radio waves and communication. And oh my God, he is tapping phone lines. That's how he knew that
about the Pinkerton stuff.
That's how he knew that Buddy worked for Pinkerton, is that he's tapping phone lines.
That makes sense.
And I do remember there were a lot of people in the chat the night he was talking about the radio and like radios being clearer and like just go home and listen, it'll be so great. A lot of people were like, don't listen to the radio. It wouldn't have made anybody go insane. It really was that he had this deep understanding of how radios worked and just like was like installing amplifiers on telephone poles to make radios sound better.
Canadian Mudkips, I think Dicky does take over the theater after old man Pearson passes away.
It sure is. I mean, it's either him or Gerda Gibberman. So I think I vote for Dicky.
Actually, where does everybody go after this? Who stays in Mayfield?
That's a good question.
I think Hugsley stays in Mayfield, and I think he still visits Void in the insane asylum. But like maybe like at 12 at night every now and then when he's not like screaming all the time. But I think he stays in Mayfield and I don't know. I think he tries to track down the lenses too. And shatter them.
Yeah.
That'll be season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. I was gonna say a thing about that, but now actually I don't think I will. If open-ended.
Oh, and I also
if we want to leave it open-ended. No, I was gonna talk about a little bit about the lenses, but I don't think I need to. Unless you want me to. Do you want me to? I can.
Save it for season 2.
Well, no, season 2. Season 2 of Madness and Mercy. Season 2 of Madness and Mercy is going to be Lovecraft Island, so I think I can talk about it. Actually.
Well, what about season 3? We'll go back to Mayfield.
We play our own grandchildren.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I was going to say.
So in that case, I think it's not spoiler. I'm not spoiling anything by saying that the telescope, the lens fragments are all gone.
Okay.
The whole idea. Oh, actually, here's something I didn't really go into all that much either. When I was coming up with like the whole mineshaft asteroid thing, I figured like, okay, there's this tunnel, there's like this mine underneath Professor Hart's house, and it was a mine that was being opened up. Like Professor Hart and his family have owned this land for generations, and they used to own this mine. It took a significant investment to like open up this channel underground, and they were mining gold. And like the miners started hearing this voice, that whispering, and so like they sort of dug towards it and were eventually driven insane. So they were digging towards this asteroid, and they found it. They come upon this chamber that was already like carved out, and they all just went bonkers. So the mine had to be closed. So then, generations later, Hart and his family still kind of know about it. Perhaps his family has sort of built up a resistance to the insanity in a weird way, just by like being exposed to it for so long. He takes Gray Boyd on as like a protege, tells him about the asteroid. Gray, who is like already just this uncannily intelligent individual, is like, let me look at it. And so they inspect it, they study it. They find out that they can smelt it. They melt it down, and like it has a similar composition to glass. So they mix it with some glass and just think to like make a lens. They probably try to make some other things too, but the lens is like has the significance to them. They make a telescope out of it. They look through the telescope. They go crazy. That was sort of like that's like the quick version. And then as like the discovery of what happens when you look through the telescope becomes more clear, some people become blessed, some people become broken. Father Fitzgerald looks through it, and then Father Fitzgerald is convinced that he sees God. They see a few people become broken. They're like, oh, okay, well, this is, some sort of, if you're Father Fitzgerald, you think it's some like biblical predetermination. If you're one of the more scientific minded people like Hart or Boyd, you think, okay, this is just like unlocking people's true potential. And if your true potential is to dig holes all your life, then, that's your lot. So their whole idea is like, okay, well, now we have like a definitive way to know like who should be in charge,
In your kind of headcanon, do you think, looking through that lens, do you think it's totally random who becomes blessed and who becomes broken?
I mean, mechanically, so not totally random. It's like a weighted randomness, though. Essentially, what would happen, and this is by the book, is that when you look through the telescope, you roll a sanity check. And I think it's, and I know that this is in the book somewhere. I don't want to look for it now, but either by the book, it's either like you pass or you fail, and that leads to you being blessed or broken. I forget which goes to which. But then as for, I see Kath in the chat asking about the voice and like the asteroid itself. The book is called Nameless Horrors. I didn't want to like ascribe it to
name something.
Yeah, I didn't want to give it a name. So I didn't want to say like, oh, this asteroid is a fragment of like this elder god or anything like that. I wanted to sort of leave that mysterious because I didn't want you guys to be able to find out either, because it's supposed to be like this unsolvable mystery.
Yeah.
So and like the reason I gave you guys dynamite was because I wanted you to collapse the mine. That was the only way that you could that was the most permanent way that you could shut it down. So like, what is that? What is that asteroid? Where did it come from? What is that whispering? I still don't know. The whispering honestly was just like me driving in my car, like trying to say creepy shit. And like, that's what came to me. I was like, oh yeah. I was just like whispering syllables to myself and like, oh, that sounds scary. Done.
Meanwhile, Hugsley's like, what does that mean? That inflection.
Exactly.
Write that down.
Horror. It's a nameless horror we don't know and we never will.
I have a personal theory. I think, and this is a conversation. I wanted to have it with someone, and I forget who the impulse was to have it with, but I think I wanted to have a conversation about the drive to the obsession of knowledge and of conquering and of obtaining and wanting to perfect and wanting to grow, how that can end up being like a violent thing. And so it's like Boyd had all this potential and he got obsessed with potential and started destroying things now to try to further this other thing. Yeah. So like to me it's like kind of like an intellectual cancer. Like that absolutely is like, if not an overt part of it, like something that became part of it. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on. A couple more questions from the Goons.
Yes,
I asked that one already. So we asked that already. Oh, another one. Okay, this is the last one from Charmy. Charmy had a bunch of really great questions.
Thanks, Charmy.
Thanks, Charmy.
Right?
Charm School.
Charmy was killing it with the questions. And Charmy's in the chat. So thank you, Charmy, for all these great questions. The last one I have from you,
they're
Charmy.
undercover, okay? Stop.
Oh shit! I'm so sorry. God damn it. Someone who bears a passing resemblance to Charmy wants to know: Did you all live your best ending?
Wow, that's such a good question.
Good question. I'll start. So I feel like the episode before the finale was so strong for me that it really didn't matter what happened going into the finale. Like the moment with like Dicky, where do you think you are was so powerful for me that I was pretty psyched about just anything that came next. So and I think that doing like prosthetic faces anonymous is 10 out of 10 ending for Dicky. So I was pretty satisfied.
I'm glad that you say so, because I kind of forgot in the moment, because the epilogue was also kind of improv. I had thought about it before, but I didn't write anything down, and I had forgotten that you said that Dicky wanted to become a priest. So in my mind, he is.
Yeah.
In my mind, he is, and that's just like what he's doing after a service, is that he
Or
does these like.
maybe there's a secret reason he couldn't become a priest. Find out next time. Who knows?
It's a girl. It's a lady friend, isn't it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's ladies.
We can't reveal everything. We can't reveal everything.
Sweetie's like, is it me?
Can't reveal all the answers.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to tell
no,
you
no,
how
you're good.
awesome I think you are.
Mwah.
What you think, Hugsley?
Yeah.
Your best life?
Best ending?
I think Hugsley is en route to his best life. Like, I think that's the proper ending for now. But I think if I ever get the chance to keep playing Hugsley, I think the rest of his arc is learning to let go of the past. Like, he's still in this place where he's trying to hold on to memories and get things right and recall them properly. But I think as he grows up and matures, I think he's going to learn to do that a little less and be less obsessive.
Yeah, I was similar to you, Trev. The previous episode where Howard was killed was kind of like that was a sort of finale to my story as I thought it was gonna go. And so everything else after that was like Sweetie was so shook that it took a while to recover, and then after that it's kind of everything is shattered at that point, and there's ways to recover, but it's not it was not at all what I thought it was, how it was I thought it was going to turn out. Yeah, I genuinely thought, and I don't think this was ever in the cards, it turns out, but I thought that there was going to be a situation where like Sweetie and Howard were going to have a conversation in the house, and like Sweetie was going to walk out the front door forever, but they would like go their separate ways. That was not going to be in the cards for them.
It was not, no. I did sort of have it in my mind that like when Howard looked through the telescope, in that like that sweeping moment of just like wisdom and knowledge, he realized that you had been cheating on him. Or that you've been having an affair, and just like part of that like otherworldly knowledge and wisdom was just like, this is so much bigger than me. This is bigger than us. Like we're clearly this is not working out, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I forgive you.
Yeah.
Which
I was
made his death so
I was
tragic.
still shocked. His death was so tragic to me, and I cried all the way to my audition the next day. And I was so
mad.
surprised.
And then you got the part.
And then I got the part.
Thanks, Dad.
I did, but yeah, I was so shocked by that. And then even when Howard did say in that moment, in his like moment of total clarity, when he was like, I think we both know there's no reason to continue our marriage. I was like, I was shocked. I had never, as much as everything that had happened between the two of us, I was like,
You're breaking up with me?
what you mean? I was so shook. But
I was so ready for that. I was so ready for that. I was so ready to like take that moment from you. I knew that I was doing it. I knew that I was doing it as I was doing it.
Oh, mean.
And listen, I know like I like to think overall that I like don't want to be too mean to you guys, but that was something like I knew that was going to be such a deep cut, and I was like, I love that. I loved it so much. I couldn't help myself.
That's one of my favorite scenes, because the way that shit played out, everybody was in such a different headspace.
Yeah.
Like, Howard was so clear, and Sweetie was so confused and torn.
Yeah.
And like Dicky and Buddy were both like yelling over that conversation. Hugsley was like downstairs.
that was
Benny
great.
was like ready to fight. The way everybody talking over each other, and like that scene's one of my favorites.
It worked out better than I possibly could have imagined. And at the time, I was like, shit. Because I always sort of have like an idea of where you're going to go. And it went just so far off the rails between Hugsley wanting to go downstairs and people fighting each other and like sort of hinting at like this in-party fighting. But at the same time, I was like, but this is exactly what I wanted. Like this situation is so confusing and so horrible that like everyone's just evolving into chaos, and like this is exactly what I want. It's perfect.
So cool.
I do want to come back to that moment, Campbell, in a minute, but first I want to hear if Benny Kaplan lived his best ending.
I think he did. Well, so before I forget, I want to ask, was this answered? I'm going to have to go back and watch our video.
No, go ahead. Ask again. That's fine.
Half, but who came up with like the Sweetie and who were you? Who was Arnold? Was that his name? The father of your child? Who came up with that story? Did you guys talk about this? We don't have to repeat it. I'll watch the video later if you
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Something I wanted to know.
It's fine. I don't think we like explicitly said, well, maybe we sort of, I think we said it, we said all the pieces in a disparate fashion, but let's explicitly say that the book presents some like pre-generated investigators that the players can pick up if they don't want to create their own. I knew that wasn't going to be the case with you guys, so I just said come up with characters because I knew you were going to want to do it anyway. One of the characters is having an affair with Arnold McDermott, who is married.
Okay.
So Campbell came to me and said, here's my character. This is the concept. Her husband has this like head injury, and he's been getting distant and violent, and she doesn't want to be married to him anymore. So she's having an affair with someone. I'll leave that up to you. So I thought, perfect. Arnold McDermott, done.
Awesome. Okay.
And then the character of Howard, like it was Campbell's idea that he had this head injury and was like kind of getting violent and like unpredictable. So I figured, all right, well, he's getting violent and unpredictable. He will do something that he regrets, which was that night when he hit his head. And then he will seek counsel from Father Fitzgerald, who will have naturally guide him towards the telescope, and he will become blessed. So that's where all that came from.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Oh, those wicked webs you weave.
We're all just threads in Kay's safety scarf.
Yeah. But I think you did a beautiful job with, well, everything, but especially Benny's ending, because I think if I could have written it myself, that's how I would have written it. Like Benny finally, like especially that drop in the gold, like not even having to say anything, just like, I'm fucking done. You're paid back. I'm out. Yeah. And then I think he would have went to Pittsburgh, and I think he probably would have stayed there, or like if not stayed there, went somewhere else like to lay low. But I do think he would have stayed in contact with the crew. Like I think he would have tried to.
I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah, because after you do something like that, you're bonded, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't think I ever had anything. There was maybe like a small chance that Margaret would have been pressured to look through the telescope, but I don't know. Like right from the very first time I played her, she just seemed like she was so savvy. There was something about her, like she's incredibly smart, incredibly savvy. She's like probably from a similar background as Benny. She's got all these street smarts, and she's just like this strong woman who like does not fall for shit. And like all the kids are too. So I think maybe there was a possibility, like if you hadn't told her to go to Pittsburgh, maybe she would have been like threatened by something spooky, but I don't think she would have fallen for any shit. Like I think if she hadn't gone to Pittsburgh, she probably would have had a scene similar to Lucille Lowry, where she's like in her house defending herself and her children with like the gun that you gave her, and just like giving no fucks. Like anyone messes with my cubs, I fucking kill you. Like that's how Margaret struck me. She always seemed like just a boss ass bitch to me.
That's exactly how I saw her, and I feel like she had to be someone special to be married to a guy like Benny. You know, if you want to marry a pile ugly like that, you really got to have something special.
Believe it, Tyler. Give it up, Tyler. None of us believe it.
It's over. You've lost this battle.
But especially
Benny's a fox. Let's get over it.
Especially the way you played her when it was like, like I know that I've been doing some shady shit, like, but I don't want to tell you, but I appreciate you trusting me. You know what I mean? Like, you played her exactly how I would have pictured her. That's like everything about Benny and his storyline. Like it played out perfectly for me.
I mean, you gave me a character. I think I was just following directions. But cool.
Well, you did some beautiful work.
Well, thank you, Tyler. That's very sweet of you to say. Okay, I'm bouncing around a little bit here. I want to jump back to Howard, and this is a question that comes to us from Bex, who knitted the scarf that is so neatly draped around my neck. And Bex wants to know, sweetie, do you think you would have felt any differently about Buddy killing Howard after seeing what happened to Gray?
I mean, intellectually, yeah, but it doesn't really matter because I didn't have that information at the time. He didn't have that information at the time. Like, he just killed him, and there was a moment, and I've talked to Trevor about this, where I was wondering if I wanted to end my game with like reporting Buddy to someone. Or like outing him as a Pinkerton agent, or reporting him to Pinkerton, or like setting him on a path to make his life a little harder. But just because by the end of the campaign, he seemed to Sweetie just so violent, and I don't think she'll ever quite get over that image of him shooting him through the heart.
Sure, it makes sense.
He is
a priest. That was intense. It worked out very well though. I think if he had stayed alive, he probably he was going to try to because I think in my mind, Father Fitzgerald didn't quite understand the asteroid to the same degree as Boyd and Hart did. So I think he would have tried to break away and would have seen what he saw through the telescope. He would see this thing and think it was some sort of holy relic and just start worshiping it basically. But then I didn't have to do that because Buddy killed him.
As a player, I am glad that Howard did not suffer the same fate. As a player, I am.
Sure. Yeah, because ultimately everybody who became blessed just dies. When the connection is severed between them and the Great Mind, they go crazy and then they die. And that's by the book. That's by the book. The people who are broken go in, or they faint, they fall unconscious. And then, assuming they survive, 12 hours later, they wake up and they're back to normal. The blessed, however, become violent and feral and animalistic, and basically they become the worst of the broken. So they just go on a killing spree wherever they are.
I think I figured out what Benny's blessing would have been.
Oh?
It would have been super average intelligence. He would have finally been able to just do stuff an average intelligence person could do instead of just struggling
None of
through
us
life.
believe you.
Face first.
Give it up, Tyler.
Give it up.
He's smart.
This is Benny Kaplan, okay? He spent his life getting punched in the face. There aren't many brain cells left.
So while we're on you, Tyler, I want to skip back a little bit. This question came from Tania. Tania wants to know if you have any kind of method or preparation when approaching a table where everyone around you is from a performance background. Do you have anything that you do to because I didn't write it down, but if you can go back through the Q&A channel in the question marks. Oh, and Tania's in the chat as well. But yeah, Tania was just so impressed with your ability to just roll with the punches and with your improvisational skills, as if you perhaps had a theater background of your own, which we all know that you don't. But it was very impressive that you were able to just summon that.
Well, that is very nice, and thank you. But I think that is, so it was the first time I played with all of you, I was very intimidated by that. And it definitely helped that I kind of got a little warm up with the little module we ran on Discord before we got into Strahd.
Sure.
but yeah, I think that's why like the characters I play are very much me. Instead of me taking like a small part of me and expanding that out, it's like I'm only taking a small part of me out and I'm playing a large part of me. So I think that's how I try to keep up, is my characters are very much me, and so that's how I kind of am able to put myself in the situation and just respond how I think I would respond. That's why Benny Kaplan is pretty much me, which I don't think I'm that dumb or anything, but like if I was in the 1920s, I feel like I would be a boxer. So it's like,
not ugly, I'll tell you
that. But yeah, so I was like, I would probably be a boxer. So that's and I wanted to rep the Jewish heritage, so figured to throw that part in there. So yeah, I think I just really am very much me.
That's cool, Tyler. That's a really cool way to dive into something like this. I never really thought about it that way. That's really cool.
That is very interesting. Yeah, because I think like we talk all the time about like taking a small part of yourself and expanding upon that, but I hadn't really thought of it in like the inverted way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the time I did try to get a little crazy with my character was on the D&D road trip, the Call of Cthulhu.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jean-Pierre, Henri, Louis.
Wait. No, Jean-Pierre, François, Henri, Louis Latour.
That's our guy. Yes, that was Tyler's character in our very first Call of Cthulhu campaign, the one I ran in that road trip, and he was an antiquities dealer, if I'm not mistaken, or a collector. He was a fascinating. Yeah, he was a fascinating character either way. All right, I have one more question that I brought up from Discord, but first, can I present that can I propose that we take like just a 5-minute bathroom break, because I've been drinking a lot of beer.
Let's pee.
But of course,
let's pee. Okay, and I don't have much. I don't have much more after it, but then we'll just we'll finish this out without everyone having to watch me squirm around like a 5-year-old. Okay, I love you all dearly.
A 1, a 2, a 3.
And here we are. We're back. All right. I feel so much better. If I were smarter about how I planned this all and arranged it all of it together, I would have maybe put a break in the middle instead of like saving one question for the like after the pee break. But I just really couldn't wait any longer. So friends, the last question I have is from Tory Bird. Tory Bird, who asked this in the Discord and who I think might be in the chat. Maybe I saw Tory Bird's name pop up once or twice, but maybe not. And I think it's a great question to end on, because the question is, for those of you who had never seen the end of a campaign before, how was it?
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I lost a friend, to be honest.
Yeah.
Aww.
It's like I kind of miss Benny. Like, I'm not done with him,
Yeah.
He'll always
I
be
feel the
alive
same.
in your heart.
Yeah.
It is bittersweet. I've only ever finished one, kind of two campaigns. The first time I played through Curse of Strahd, we finished that, but I was DMing it. And the only other campaign I've finished as a player was Bananas, because we reset the universe and it was a whole thing. But yeah, it is bittersweet, just like all endings,
Sure.
Yeah. I'll miss Sweetie, and also just like, there feels like something with a short campaign like this. Like, you kind of just have to be like, that's all that we were meant to do. Like, even if I feel like I could have lived out a year with all of y'all, it's like it's just a snapshot.
Yeah. Honestly, well, I think for my part, the fact that question needed to be asked at all kind of just really brings into light the fact that this is like that this was long enough to feel like a campaign. Like, this is a module. And I think I said at one point during the stream, if you just go by the book, if I just did what was in the book, this is like maybe 2 or 3 sessions. Granted, that is assuming that a session is like 3 or 4 hours rather than the 2, sometimes 3 that we do. But still, I think, and so much of that just is because of you guys, because of all of the the backstory and the lore and the role play that you bring to the table. It gives me so much to expand upon, which then in turn gives you more to expand upon when talking to each other, which I just think is so much awesome storytelling and stuff that I would never want to cut short. But I think that there's something really special about a 12 episode arc.
Yeah.
I thought that worked out very cool.
3 months we were at this.
Yeah.
And it came together in such a wonderful way. Our characters played off of each other so exquisitely, and I really got a sense of everybody throughout the course of the campaign. Like the early stages of a campaign are always a little tenuous. Everyone's sort of figuring their own characters out. They're figuring out the dynamics between everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a limited run, the pressure's on to establish some rapport, and I just think that we did that really effectively and efficiently and wonderfully. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I will say I think it gives me a lot of stuff to it gives me a lot to learn from and work towards as I write Lovecraft Island.
I can't wait.
Papa Ned.
We joke, but hey, how was birthday dinner?
Aw. Oh wait, is Ned back? Oh my God, wait a second. Oh my God, okay, hang on. I gotta put you back in here, Ned. I'm gonna copy your link. I'm gonna throw your link back into your properties here. And then I'm gonna unmute you on my team so I can hear you. Hi, Ned. There he is.
Kay is hacking into the mainframe.
Yes, about that.
No, don't be sorry, please. I'm just glad that you are back. I wasn't expecting that. But I was just saying, I love, this is a thing that started out as a joke. I have started writing it. I'm not going to put any firm timeline on it just yet, because I don't know what that would be. But I want to keep saying it out loud so that I am holding myself accountable to write it. But yes, the next thing I run, if not the next Call of Cthulhu game that I run, is going to be Lovecraft Island. It's going to be a Call of Cthulhu adventure set in a reality TV dating show. And let me just set I want to just set expectations now.
It will be sexy. This is the expectation.
Well, that, yes. If Madness and Mercy was directed by Mike Flanagan of Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass, Lovecraft Island is directed by Joss Whedon.
Into it.
Right,
it's gonna be sexy. It's gonna be violent. It's going to be I'm probably gonna tell all of you guys to come up with 3 characters instead of just 1 because there's gonna be a lot of character death.
That's so good.
This is so good. This is so good.
Y'all are gonna die several times. Just be ready.
Yes, I'm so into that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So anyway, Lovecraft Island. Stay tuned.
Really
Let's
excited.
do it. Kay, is your cousin gonna be on it?
Almost certainly.
Yes.
Almost certainly. Whether on purpose or not, I'm gonna reload my camera since it's glitching a little bit.
What about the rest of your family that I discovered for you in the UK? Are they all going to be on it?
Once I meet them, I'll come up with some stuff for them. My camera's still glitching a little bit. I'm going to do a quick little. Ned, while I'm resetting my camera, 1 or 2 questions that we can have you answer is that do you feel like Buddy had his best ending, and also whether or not you had ever ended a campaign before, and if not, how was it for the first time? You answer that question while I reset my camera, because right now I'm diving into the Matrix and I have some fixing to do.
Yeah. My answer to the first question is what ending? Who said that was the end? And my second answer to that is yes, I have ended 2 other campaigns, 2 other modules. But this one is the first Call of Cthulhu campaign that I ended, and it was every ounce of horrifying and spooky as I would have liked it to be. I think the beautiful thing about Call of Cthulhu ending is the horror's still out there. All you did was just survive this time. That's it. That's the only thing that happened is
Yeah,
Is
Kay
you
even did the
survived
stinger
that.
at the end where we heard the whispers all over. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we can't hear you.
Okay, you're muted.
Oh, now she's muted.
Oh no!
Oh,
Wait,
gosh.
all right. Who wants to
What?
do Kay's voice?
It's
I'm gonna
Cthulhu.
try to think.
Oh God, how
Oh,
can you
no.
do Kay's voice?
What is going on? Why can't I figure out my mic? This should not be happening. I'm the keeper. What? This can't be true.
What has happened?
Keep going,
indeed?
Tyler. This is great.
I can't. My brain stopped. I can't think of anything else to say.
I'm just going to use Blazing Saddles quotes
You
now.
just walked
What in
off
the
the
wide,
cliff.
wide world
The
of
cliff
sports
of
is going on?
improv just
Yeah,
ended.
exactly. I think the beer just hit, and it's just like, no.
You're done.
Do you need to do a little reset, Kay?
Oh,
1 minute. I will figure this out. I
Not
am
now.
Twitch Witch.
Ah!
Hey!
Tyler, I thought you were going to say 1 minute. I can figure this out. I was on Broadway.
Oh, I am Spider-Man.
There it is. There it is behind me.
Well,
I
you know
used
what
to-
they say, it's not a
One of these
Goon
days.
production if there's not technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, I reset my camera, and in so doing, I accidentally also reset my microphone. So I just had to
There we go.
make sure I had to sort of essentially power loop it.
R. Bennett says, operator.
Operator.
You have a sexy voice. What are you doing later? Well, Goons, I don't think I have any more questions, or I didn't write down any more from anywhere else. But if you have any, please feel free to ask them.
Yeah.
We can answer them either right now or in Discord later, or on
Yeah.
Twitter or on Instagram or one of the other things that we're on. But yeah, to the rest of you Goons, you beautiful faces around me. Dan had to leave, but Campbell, Trevor, Tyler, Ned, anything else you want to address before we wrap it up for the evening?
I
No,
don't think
just
Somebody asked how Buddy would have cooked that steak had he held on to it.
Please answer this.
Please.
I would have knocked the horns and the hooves off. Medium rare. I want to hear it moo when I cut into it.
Oh, brother.
You said that. Why did you have to say it 3 different masculine ways? Not one, 3 ways.
Because Buddy would have said it 3 masculine ways.
Oh, brother. Yeah, and I just wanted to thank everybody who tuned in for these 3 months we've been going through this adventure. Your energy and excitement and passion is what fuels our energy and excitement and passion. So thank you for seeing us through to the end of this project that exceeded all of my expectations. I don't want to speak for everybody, but my expectations were high from the jump, and this blew me away. And all of you blew me away in spite of everything, So thank you, Kay. Thank you, Gaggle. Thank you, everybody, for just a really, really enjoyable process.
I didn't think I could be so moved by something like this. And if you still have burning questions that we didn't get to, we'll hit you up on Discord. And if you're not in our Discord, think about becoming a member of our Patreon. You can join our Discord at any level, and we'll answer your questions for you.
Yeah, let me get that link there in the chat for people so that they can.
Please do. And
if
that doesn't
find it.
If that doesn't sweeten the pot just enough, Campbell, at what tier will my keeper notes be available to Patreon members?
Oh,
sweet, my friends. Okay, this is an announcement. So starting tomorrow morning, I'm going to start releasing Kay's keeper notes and our backstories for our Madness and Mercy characters on the Patreon. This is going to be a special, slightly higher tier item. So this is going to be at the $10 and up level. If you want to listen, people, let me get real. If you want to
real close to my microphone.
You want to up your pledge to the $10 level if you're at the $5 level, and you want to download all of those notes, and then you want to take your pledge back to the $5 level. I'm not going to tell anybody. And then also, I just want to real quick pass the following by the camera. This is not available yet, but
you asked and we answered.
it's not available
I
yet.
love it.
but stay tuned.
That
It
is
will
so
be.
amazing.
It will
Stay
be.
tuned to the Etsy shop.
The one other thing I will say
Dude.
is that we haven't spoken too much about this, but some of you who are Patreon members already know about it. Patreon gives you the option to become an annual member. So if you're like me and you don't love the idea of like automatically charging $5, $10, $15 out of your bank account every month, you can just pay for an entire year in advance.
And you get that at a 10% discount if you do that.
Even better. Yeah. I mean, what's not to love? And then you are just at that tier. You don't have to think about putting that money into making sure that money is in your account every month, which is, I personally, I mean, Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, like it's enough. I don't want to be doing month.
Also, with goons like us, who needs Disney Plus? I mean, come on.
Oh my lord.
Just hang out with us all the time.
Anyway, if an annual membership is something that appeals to you as it does to me, it's just something I feel that you should know about and that you have that option. So Goons, I think that about does it for us. Thank all of you so much for joining us for this opportunity. I mean, look, I'm going to speak personally here, and this just gave me an opportunity to say. To talk about all of the brilliant ideas I came up with that didn't get the chance to come out through gameplay. So I love this. I think this is really great. Stay tuned for an announcement regarding Lovecraft Island. As soon as I feel like I have enough written in the can that I can like make an announcement about that. I'm thinking, we'll discuss this, Goons, but I think that's going to probably be like a Patreon, some sort of Patreon tier reward, or like what do they call it when like if the Patreon reaches a certain level, then we release this thing?
Oh,
Like a stretch goal?
Yeah, like a Patreon goal. So I think we'll make that a goal. But I'm not quite ready to announce that yet until I've got enough written and in the can and know where that story is going. But it's gonna be sexy.
Yes!
It's gonna be violent.
Yes!
It's gonna be spooky as all hell. And I'm really excited for it.
I'm so ready.
So happy.
We all have to play by a pool.
I'm just going to be driving the speedboat lollipop. Just like
Only if I
my
get to
God.
play a Jeff Goldblum lookalike.
That can be, Ned, that can be one of the 3 characters you come up with.
Life finds an island.
Love finds an island.
Love finds an
Holy
island.
shit. Oh, I'm going to write that down.
Start making these hashtags trend, people. Get ready, because it's going to happen and it's going to be epic. As far as what we do, hi everyone, we are Critical Fail DM and the Goons. I'm Kay. I was the keeper of arcane lore for this adventure, which we were dissecting tonight. The Critical Fail DM himself is sitting to my stage left, and that would be Trevor as Dicky, who played Dicky Harrow in this adventure, but who normally DMs the STRAHDCAST, which is our Curse the Strahd podcast that releases new episodes every Sunday. Sitting to my stage right is Campbell, who played Sweetie McLintock in this adventure, who plays Winnie Winchester. So many W names in your name. In the STRAHDCAST, the stout halfling cleric. To my downstage left is Ned as Buddy Wilson. Ned played Buddy the Pinkerton agent in Madness and Mercy, and plays Drogar Stonebreath, the Dragonborn cleric in the STRAHDCAST. And then to my downstage right, that would be Tyler, who played Benny Kaplan, the kosher king, the Jewish boxer in Madness and Mercy, and who plays Artemis Silverbow in the STRAHDCAST. So if you're here on Twitch, check out our link tree. It's in our description. If you're watching this on YouTube, we probably have that somewhere in our YouTube description. If you're on our YouTube, subscribe to it and hit the bell icon, because we put up a lot of really cool stuff all the time. If you're listening to this on our patron-only RSS feed, then you already know all of this, and I don't need to tell you. Stay tuned to hear what we're doing next on Twitch. I think we really like doing stuff, and this is this may be the last thing we do on Twitch for now that is called Madness and Mercy. There will be more stuff that we do on Twitch under the Gooniverse umbrella. So come hang out with us. We love y'all, and
we were doing Divinity for a little while, and I think in interim we might pop back that for a little while. But yeah, there's more incoming.
Oh, we better.
Exactly.
Don't tease me with that.
I know. When there's not TTRPG content, at least there can be video game content. Just nerdy content all around. It abounds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's it from me. Goons, anything else you want to say to
Thanks,
the gaggle
Don't
before we
think
call it a
so.
night?
Love y'all.
Thanks, y'all. And take
Yeah.
your night or day wherever you are with advantage.
Bye, goons.
Much
Bye, everyone.
love
Thank you.
and thank you.
Mwah.